Good evening. My name is Omar Ayash. I am the president and CEO of the World Trade Center here in Kentucky. It's so good to have you here. We're always excited to host the Global Executive Forum uh, and rotate the Global Executive Forum between Lexington and Louisville. Back in March, we had a wonderful event with the president of Lexmark, the president of Valvoline Global Products, and the chief operating officer of Alltech. Tonight, you're in for another treat. The focus tonight is going to be very much on supply chain. And the reason we chose this topic is in our conversations with our member organizations, as we're trying to grow trade, many of the companies have been challenged with the idea of supply chain. And not only supply chain, there's also workforce development and a few other things. But one of the beautiful things that has happened over the last 3-4 years post-COVID is really supply chain has become part of the C-level conversation. Many of the organizations have recognized that, you need a chief supply chain person sitting at the table with the CEO and the other important functions of an organization. So anyhow, without further ado, without me talking too much, let me just share with you a few exciting things that are happening with the World Trade Center. We'll continue to grow. I've been in this position for about 26 months now, and we've had last year was a wonderful year, and this year we're gearing up for a number of different exciting stuff. So in a couple of weeks from now, we are actually hosting an inbound trade mission with 5 ambassadors from ASEAN countries. Laos, Vietnam, Indonesia, Vietnam, and that's going to be in partnership with the Muhammad Ali Center. So if you're interested in attending that and you haven't got an invitation directly from me, please see me tonight and I'll make sure that we'll get you invited to that. So that's going to be on July 9th. Not too long after that, around August 5th, August 6th, the Consul General of Canada is coming to Lexington, and we're going to be hosting a lunch on August 6th in Lexington. And again, there'll be an invitation for that. And he also wants to do some company tours. So if any of you are interested in hosting them in terms of company tours, we'll look forward to that. Then we'll be doing another Global Executive Forum at UK as part of the GATN Global Week. So we're excited about that. That's going to be around September 17th. And the focus of that Global Executive Forum is going to be really on women in international trade, successful international trade executives that represent a lot of Kentucky companies in that forum. Not too long after that, we continue to build on a number of different activities. We're going to Dubai again. And the reason we're going to Dubai again is because I lived there for 12 and a half years, and I know the place very well, and it's the best place for you to visit if you want to do international trade. But no, in reality, every year the World Trade Center will host a trade mission to Dubai. We'll look at a different trade show, but GITEX, which is the largest technology trade show in the world, seems to be one that we're focused on right now. There's a couple of reasons why we're also continuing to work on GITEX. The U.S. Department of Commerce, through the U.S. Embassy there, partnered up with GITEX as a key partner for U.S. companies. At the same time, our World Trade Center in Dubai hosts us very well. Whenever we go on that trade mission, they give us VIP tickets to the GITEX. And last year when we were there and I was wearing my VIP badge, everyone thought, I'm a minister, I'm an ambassador. It felt good, walking around feeling like, hey, who's this important guy? And after all, I'm just Omar, Anyhow, so a lot of different activities that are going on at the World Trade Center. So one thought that comes to my mind, we are a membership organization at the end of the day. And if you don't mind, by show of hands, if you are a member of the World Trade Center, please raise your hand. We want to see how many members we've got here in the room. All right, more than 50%. So, the other 50%, tonight, I hope you'll sign up, right? No pressure. No, it's really exciting that, to see more and more of our Kentucky companies, whether you're small, medium, and large companies, do international trade. Back in March, I announced that the state of Kentucky reached $40 billion in export. I'm going to talk about that again. The state of Kentucky reached $40 billion in export because it's really something that is very important. It was a growth of $8 billion from the year before. Let's see what happens here in the near future. Of course, there's a number of different reasons for that. There's a lot of great companies in our backyards. There's a lot of companies that are growing. Some of you in this room, you know how your bottom line is doing. The fact that, we are a gateway to the world, whether it is with UPS right here in our backyard and a number of different things that are happening on that front. So it's pretty exciting to see all that growth. Now, having said that, there's still some challenges that we need to work through. And some of those challenges in my mind are very much focused on how Kentucky companies brand and market their services to the world. I think, 10 years ago, it was one of those things where you can actually easily, ride off the coattail of being an American brand, and people wanted to buy an American brand. Now, I think there's stiff competition from the rest of the world, so you have to actually gear up your marketing efforts on that level. The other thing I continue to highlight, and this is, from experience that I'm seeing on the street and talking to people and things of that nature, is the idea of cross-cultural understanding. And the World Trade Center has a very strong program as it relates to that. We partnered up with the University of Kentucky on that. We partner up with the University of Louisville on that. And actually, we're going to be partnering up with Bellarmine University next year, and we're going to be partnering up with Murray State University. We're educating our future MBA students on the value of cross-cultural understanding. So we're excited about these types of programs and things of that nature. Enough said. Let me just do a couple of thank yous. Vernon with the University of Louisville, thank you for sponsoring the Global Executive Forum and beyond. We really appreciate it. Wally with the Gatton College of Business, we really appreciate the sponsorship of the Global Executive Forum as well. We're looking for more sponsors. If you're interested in putting your name out there, we'd love that. Alltech, thank you for purchasing a table. Valvoline, UPS, and who else? Am I missing anyone else? I should be missing someone, but it's not coming to me. But thank you for those people that have purchased a table. We really appreciate it. And, finally, there are several board members of mine that are here. So if you don't mind standing up, and we'd like to give you a round of applause for your service to the organization. All right. So I promise you that you're going to learn one or two things tonight, maybe more. This topic is really exciting. We actually recorded a podcast this afternoon focused on that. And there's really some unique things that, as it relates to navigating supply chain from a global perspective. But at the same time, I asked Prosher to put in some lighthearted activities here because it's an evening program and we want to enjoy ourselves a little bit, So without further ado, I turn it over to you, Prosher. Thank you.
All right, welcome. How are you guys doing? How many people stayed dry here? Yeah. How many people got wet? Nick? So Nick over there was a chivalrous man. He took a young lady, dropped her off at the door, went and parked and got soaking wet coming back. His wife would be very proud. No, listen, this is a great place. Supply chain is all over the place, right? How many people here are actually in supply chain? Raise your hand if you're involved in supply chain. A little higher. All right. So about 2/3, maybe a little more than that. And so if you're not in it, you'll learn a lot. If you're in it, you'll probably bitch about a lot. So, it'll be the same, right? Supply chain is a working progress, and it's gotten even worse or challenging as the things have moved on, right? And our job today with the panelists today is to have some good dialogue, right? We're going to make it easy. We're going to make it fun. We're going to get it engaging with them because they have a myriad of amount of experience coming into it, and that's the goal. We know that in the past few years, it's been unprecedented how the supply chain has changed. In my opinion, it's changed so much since COVID. It was changing already pre-COVID, and then it just took it another turn post-COVID. And everybody's shaking their head. They understand that that's changed. Landscape is very challenging. You have geopolitical issues going on. You have, trade policies going on. You have, trying to figure out automation, labor issues. And those are just the start of everything we're talking about. And I remember Valvoline for the longest time. I worked for Valvoline for a while. We'll talk a little bit about that. didn't have a chief supply chain officer. No, hardly any company that I knew of had a chief supply chain officer role. They didn't view supply chain to be as critical at that time as the role has become. And I see more and more companies putting a role very focused only on that. And it's super critical. And there's a huge reason for that, because money can be made or could be lost very easily in that point. Inventory is not the only place where you make and lose money. It's a huge opportunity. You know, there's only so much price cuts and changes a salesperson can make. And so talking about supply chain is going to be a huge opportunity for us today. And our goal is to try to have that conversation. So what I'd love to do is I'd love to bring up our panelists, Steve, Tim, Ryan, and Greg. Why don't you guys come on up and set yourself up here? And we'll have them introduce themselves a little bit so you know what it is. Today's goal, we'll talk a little bit about trends. We'll talk about supply chain trends that are going on. We'll talk about the challenges, which everybody knows a lot about. And we'll talk about some innovations that these guys have an idea and thought about. And we want to definitely get you guys involved, right? This is going to be a panel discussion, but there's an opportunity. If you guys want to get involved, raise your hands. You know, that's okay. We want to make this, fun, engaging, and you want to take away something. I want you guys to learn something when you walk away from it beyond what you already know, right? That's the key here. So I'll start. I'll introduce myself a little bit, and then I'll have Steve, Tim, Ryan, and Greg introduce themselves. So my name is Parashar Joshi. I am the current board chairman for World Trade Center, but that's my night job. My day job is I actually work for a startup company called Amium, makes biofuels. But prior to that, I worked 25 years in Ashland and Valvoline, working in from operations to supply chain globally within the organization. I went to school at the University of Cincinnati. I'm a chemie, got my master's. I got another degree, and I just started getting more and more as I was getting bored. And I started to figure out what to do differently, right? You can find all this on LinkedIn. That's not a problem. I'm gonna encourage our panelists to tell us something that's not going to be on LinkedIn, at least one something when they introduce themselves. So I'll tell you one something about me that's not on LinkedIn. I have done supply chain on 6 continents. I have visited more than 69 countries, and it's very hard for anybody to say beyond US. And I only haven't done in Antarctica. We're working on that. I'm sure there's a supply chain issue there somewhere we got to find. My goal is to get to all 7 continents. That's my introduction to what you guys. I'm a chairman, but I also work full time as a CEO for a startup company. So, Steve, I'll turn it over to you.
Good, thanks, Parashar. Steve Marks. I am currently the senior vice president of supply chain for Givaudan Sense Color. I apologize. I've been talking all week, and I'm losing my voice, of course, tonight. So my background, I've been with the company for about 2.5 years. We manufacture natural food color ingredients. We're a division of a very large $7 billion Swiss company. We were acquired about 2 years ago. I joined right after the acquisition. My background is in supply chain. I've spent over 30 years in various supply chain function roles. The last 20 focusing specifically on international with some consumer food brands you all may know, Burger King, Papa John's, Marriott, in various roles in the international market. Let's see, I've similar to Parashar, I've worked in 43 countries, not just passing through, but actually in those countries working with teams and setting supply chains up. I'm responsible for a small team within the company that is responsible for 10 factories globally. We've got factories in China, in Malaysia, Eswatini, which is in South Africa, Brazil, in Manaus in the Amazon in Brazil, and UK and North America. So a little bit about me. I'm trying to think of something that's not on LinkedIn.
I have something, but I'm going to let you figure it out before I jump in.
Okay. Professionally, let's see, I started my career, not in supply chain, actually. I did an accounting internship with a company outside of Washington, DC. And, it just morphed into a little bit of project management. We were selling restaurant equipment, to the DC market area. And, I fell in love with the project management side of it, which morphed into a position with Marriott Corporation, just at the time that they were developing some of the brands like Courtyard, and Fairfield Inn. And that led to my time in, when I started in supply chain, really.
Awesome. I'll tell you, Steve takes meetings from the most beautiful places in the world. And he gets on our call because he's on our exec board and he's calling in from Italy, right? I mean, how hard is that, right? I mean, it's tough. He's got a tough life. He lives there. So
A small house in Italy.
yeah, I know that. I mean, he could invite all of us for the meeting, but he doesn't. So it's okay.
It's where my family
Understand.
emigrated from. So.
Understand. No, it's great. No, it's awesome. Thank you, Steve. Tim.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tim Wing. I have to say, and I would challenge any of the supply chain folks here in the room to raise your hand if you started out focused on supply chain at the beginning of your career. Anybody? Oh, there is one. So there is one. There's a unicorn. You're I think the first person I've ever met that started out their career focused on supply chain. It's not something I see often. But again, Tim Wing, I'm a paisan from upstate New York, so I like to stand. I talk with my hands, and I'm going to apologize for that. I feel like I'm already kind of half deaf with only one hand going here. But I'm the managing director of global customs brokerage growth for UPS Supply Chain Solutions. So like Steve, I started out many, many years ago, coming up on 40, which is frightening, intending to write for a culinary magazine. And suddenly I was working for Airborne Express, and that led to TNT International and FedEx for 27 years, where I built a global or a North American customs brokerage team and had the opportunity 4 years ago to come over to UPS and assume responsibility for global customs brokerage growth. So licensed U.S. customs broker. I've got a couple of professional customs designations in Canada, spent 11 years dealing with Canadian companies importing into the U.S. From a transportation perspective. And at a certain point, the little light bulb went on and said, you should probably know more about this customs part when they're bringing the stuff across the border, which is how I got involved in customs. And then spent 11 years dealing with U.S. companies, literally set up thousands of U.S. companies as non-resident importers doing business in Canada. So my fun fact you won't find on LinkedIn is I was actually the first American citizen to hold the Certified Trade Compliance Specialist designation in Canada. Wow. So I'm a licensed U.S. customs broker. I was the first American to cross that border, so to speak. So
awesome. Excellent. Lovely. Hey, Ryan, how about you?
Good evening, everyone. Ryan Ziering. I've been with UPS 30 years in January, actually. And like Tim said, I didn't think I would be in supply chain. Started out as a loader, unloader. It was a temporary gig until the mowing business got off the ground, right? But what amazing opportunities I had at UPS to get my school paid for and find a career here and just work my way through operations and human resources. And for the last 24 years now in sales, and the last 5 of those in international sales. So I'm customer facing. I like to get into the weeds with the customer, get into the ditches, if you will, and have those strategy conversations and work on your problems and figure them out. It's fun. I think PJ said some of you will probably bitch about supply chain solutions, right? I get it. I understand. But you know what? Open up. Let's talk about your whole supply chain. And I think you'll find that, people at UPS are very interested in that. We have solutions and we can help make it fun, if you will. Something interesting about me. I own a couple of businesses. I also dabble into real estate investments, and just recently, 3 years ago, bought a polish company that's almost 100 years old, and so looking forward to a 100-year anniversary of a small business. Looking forward to speaking with you all tonight.
Lovely, thank you, appreciate it. How about you, Greg?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. So my name is Greg Schultz. I'm the Global Customs Compliance Manager for Sazerac. So most of you here will know Sazerac better for our brands. We have 350 of them. Buffalo Trace, WL Weller, Blanton's, could go on and on and on, right? We have tons of brands. I'm started with Sazerac about 4 months ago, so I am new to this role, but my team, we oversee, again, the global customs compliance, export transactions, and yes, customs is a big portion of it, but also the Bureau, Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau, TTB, drives a lot of our business decisions and from a compliance standpoint as well. Yeah, similar to these guys, it's I joke with supply chain is not something that set out to do or even knew anything about. I went to College of Charleston in South Carolina, got a degree in international business, and really just fell into the industry. Started with a company named Expeditors, and my background, I've been with Expeditors and then most recently Kuehne Nagel. 20 years experience on the forwarding, transportation, customs brokerage side. Let's see, an interesting fact, I'd say not on LinkedIn. So I own and operate a small farm in Shelbyville, Kentucky. We raise Angus beef and Katahdin lamb. I married into this farm, and I will say that it's not on LinkedIn because it's the one thing in my life I feel like the more years I do it, the worse I get at it. So, when people say thank your farmer, and I'm not claiming to be a farmer, but please thank your farmer. It's a hard job.
Amen. Amen. I thought you were going to say you don't drink, and then I was going to say, why do you work for Sazerac?
No,
but
that's a requirement.
That's a requirement.
Yeah.
That's right. No, it's perfect. Listen, we have a very diverse panelists. We have people that do purchasing, outsourcing, expediting, customs, and you got a diverse group of people here. So our goal today is to share insights from them on strategy, forecasts that they think they see. So as we bring up the questions about the trends and the challenges, we're going to help them expand on it, right? And then kind of go from there. And I'm sure they'll dabble into each other's forms, right? So when we talk about trends, there's 4 trends that come to mind when we talk about supply chain and what's really changed. We talk about digital transformation, right? AI is huge. Robotics is huge. It's starting to become more and more of that. We're talking about sustainability, right? Green logistics. We're talking about circular economy, which is reusing and recycling packaging, right? Which is a huge part of it. We talk about reshoring and nearshoring. Who hasn't talked about that? I mean, every company is talking about bringing it closer or bringing it differently, all in-house. And then obviously e-commerce, the last mile delivery, which is what we all look for, right? If you're in a supply chain, you want to get your product out to your customers quickest. And I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, it's been 30 years since Amazon started. And Amazon has changed everybody's world about what they think about supply chain. They want everything tomorrow, regardless of how long it takes you to make it. To move it, they want it tomorrow. So e-commerce and the last mile delivery is a huge portion of how you move things forward now. And I think it's critical. So I'll start with just putting a question out to the guys about just some digital transformation and what's really going forward, right? What are some of the primary benefits and challenges do you associate with implementing automation in supply chain, right? And I may not apply to everybody, but I want to put out, how is automation really impacting you guys? What are you thinking about? And how is that impacting you guys in the benefits in your supply chain? And anybody can start. So,
yeah, I mean, I'll jump in. And I think for me, when I think of supply chain, we think of the goods moving back and forth, right? Which is obviously a big part of it, but also it's data. That's what I see is, from my perspective and in my years, is it's really a management of data and having your eyes on the data. So for me, it's just, I continue to see the reuse of data, the eliminating the keystrokes. I know this is not a new phenomenon, right? But that's where, from the compliance side and transportation visibility side, just the integration with strategic players, and then really that data reuse, that sharing of data between parties that are all interconnected in your supply chain. That's where I just continue to see.
Yeah, that's a lot of AI learning.
Yeah.
Tim?
Yeah, I'm going to take that slightly different direction. And to that point, there's a lot of data that's out there. And make no mistake, customs has that data. So from a customs compliance perspective, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, for instance, has partnered with a couple of AI companies. And with the implementation of ACE years ago, implementation of eManifest on the northern border, all of the trade information from all of your shipments, importing and exporting, is available. It's out there. And customs has access to all of that. So the takeaway from that, if you're importing, you need to know who you're importing from, first and foremost. And you not only need to know who you're importing from, but who they're doing business with as well. You've probably all heard UFLPA. It's a crazy acronym, the Uyghur Forced Labor Protection Act. There's a region of China, the Xinjiang region, where they have forced labor. They have slaves working on products, making products, mining, creating a number of different things. And as forced labor is discovered around the world, governments are saying, we're not going to let products that are a product, or goods that are a product of forced labor, we're not letting them come into our country. So, as an example, it's a long-winded answer. In the last 2 years alone, Customs in the U.S. alone has held 8,500 roughly shipments of goods coming into the U.S. that they suspected were touched by forced labor. $3.3 billion worth of goods. About 55% of those shipments were allowed to continue. They were found to not be subject to forced labor. The other 45% were denied entry. And it's the responsibility of the importer to provide without reasonable doubt, absolutely with certainty, that those goods were not touched by forced labor. We think of China. The vast majority of those goods didn't come from China. They came from Malaysia. They came from Vietnam. They came from Thailand, China, India. They came from other countries. So all of that to say that Customs knows what you're bringing in. Customs knows what you're sending out. So my point in all of that is make sure you know who you're doing business with, because they're looking at your data. And if you're not exercising reasonable care and due diligence and knowing who you're doing business with, they're going to come at you and say, we've already looked at your supply chain. Don't tell me this product isn't subject to forced labor, because we know it is. So data's out there, to Greg's point. Your information is available. Make sure you're dotting I's and crossing T's when it comes to customs compliance, because it will come back to bite you if you don't.
Yeah, Tim, we have a whole department within the company that is strictly looking at compliance. We get audited for those policies. We have to share with our supply chain teams around the world who are doing our contracts exactly who and where we're buying from. And you're right, in those buckets where you have forced labor and those type of things, it's taken very seriously.
Yeah. I've seen insurance companies in the transportation logistics world that are allowing you to take out policies, because if your shipment is on the water and it's almost to the U.S. and suddenly it's discovered that those goods are have touched forced labor, they can be denied entry, they can be seized, they're going to have to be turned around and go back. So when you're doing business, or when you're buying from somebody overseas, ask them to state in the contract, to certify in their contract with you, your purchase agreement, that their goods are not subject to forced labor. Make sure that they tell you that. And then potentially, if you're still concerned, take out an insurance policy, just like you do on a container going over the side of the ship as it's coming across the ocean. Take out an insurance policy to say, if these goods are found to be subject to forced labor, you're not going to lose $1 million in goods or $2 million in goods. Be thinking ahead. What's coming in supply chain? How are things changing? The availability of information, the use of AI to vet that information, that's a change that we're all going to be held to going forward.
Let me give you a simple example of automation and AI, right? For those of you who are involved in commercial invoice customs paperwork, right? You're doing the grunt work, if you will, filling out that information. That electronic transmission of your customs paperwork and whatnot is building catalogs within our brokerage system. It allows us to create a history for you and clear your shipments quicker. So those old nasty holds and delays aren't impacting your supply chain. So, just a simple example of how automation and AI is impacting you right now.
Perfect. No, this is great. I mean, is there any innovation? So two things. I'll plug one thing for World Trade Center. So importing for UPS, Alltech, Valvoline, they have big staffs and they know what they're doing, smart people within. But for the small to medium-sized businesses that World Trade Center helps support, importing is a big deal. Nobody in Kentucky does this, right? So for plug for Omar and his team, importing who we network you with, who we send you along with to help you understand how you can ship your chai or your coffee. I'm looking in the back over here, right? Outside of this, I think it's important to come back to World Trade Center if you don't know who to go to. Come to us, and then we'll figure out who to send you to. Maybe somebody from UPS can help you, Valvoline or Alltech, because that's the goal, is to help the small, medium-sized businesses grow, right?
Yeah, there are AI companies out there that they specialize in looking into your supply chain, doing a couple of different things. First of all, verifying your tariff classification. They'll look at your product, they'll look at where it's from, who the manufacturer is, their description of it, and they can tell you with a fairly high level of certainty that your tariff classification is correct or incorrect. But they'll also look back into your supply chain, going back 6, 7, 8 generations to vet for forced labor. We partner with one of them in the same way that UPS partners with one in the same way that CBP does, but there are a number of different companies out there. If you don't have that compliance staff in-house that can do that due diligence, reach out to one of these firms. They can probably contract with you, especially if you've got a large product database. You've got a lot of different products from a lot of different countries. They have the data. That information is out there, like we have that data, to look back into the supply chain and help you understand that.
Yeah. So what kind of innovation are you guys seeing then? So, I mean, we talked about data. So not only do we have the data, but the government has the data just the same. So it's goes both ways, right? And so what kind of innovations are you guys seeing within AI robotics that your firms are using now that are unique to you now that you've seen come up and more important?
We're just now starting with AI. I mean, we have a platform in an internal system which everybody is just starting to play with.
Right.
So we're just now touching it. I haven't found any significant functional use to it yet, but we've only been into it for like 6 months. So it's coming. The AI is, I mean, if any of you have used the chat GPT, it's amazing what it can do if you just put in a concept. You know, I want to go on a vacation to Italy, southern Italy. It'll give you a full itinerary that's really well mapped out. That's really well. I mean, it's amazing that just something that simple. You know, the way I see it, I think forecasting is going to be a huge opportunity with AI. If you can start to look at seasonal issues, you take and download significantly higher amounts of data that are going to be applied to a new customer trend or what's going on. The companies are going to have much better visibility into forecasting and what the needs are going to be from a supply chain perspective.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, and also I would have mentioned, I think some of the barriers, because we hear AI and we know it's coming, and the benefits are there. I think any of us that have been through organizations, especially ones that are established for decades, you understand that you have legacy systems and a patchwork of systems that have been built over time to, went from, one small function and then it went domestically to global. And I think that's the challenge, is really taking a step back and then understanding how do we fully integrate this, because the benefits are there. I mean, it's, to the point about even ChatGPT, you take from even a customs or regulations perspective, you ask it to reference the, CFR and, if it's for a tariff classification or a binding ruling, some of these legal documents, you can see it compose and spit this out. And so it's going to be something that it can change things. It's, kind of understanding how to best utilize it, but then also feeling comfortable that it is in a compliant way, and it's kind of fits into what you're doing from a business perspective.
Yeah, perfect.
I'll give you a real quick
please.
Positive use of AI, positive use of data. So if anybody here imports, you know what merchandise processing fee is, MPF. Merchandise processing fee is essentially a fee that the U.S. government, CBP, charges on the value of all imports coming into the country. It maxes out at $615, regardless of the value of your shipment. So we've got ocean customers who bring in multiple containers on one vessel, and we'll consolidate those entries onto one customs entry. So instead of them paying $615 for each entry coming in, they've got 10 entries on a ship. They pay one $615 MPF charge. We save them the other 9. But what's more important and what's more relevant is we use predictive analytics. We use the data that we've gathered through handling millions of customs entries in specific ports. And we'll have a customer that'll come to us and say, we want to consolidate these 10 shipments, but we've got some FDA products in this container. If we consolidate and customs holds that one container because of the FDA on one shipment, all 10 of those shipments get held. All 10 of those containers sit. So we use predictive analytics to look at every port by commodity at the tariff classification level, so that when we get a customer that says we come through the Port of Norfolk and we've got some FDA products, we can tell them with a very, very high level of accuracy based upon the millions of entries we've handled, what the potential for that shipment to be held for FDA reasons in advance. So they can set their risk tolerance. They tell us, now keep that container out of the consolidation, consolidate the other 9 because it's the peak season. They need their product. They can't wait for it. But when it's just slow season, they're looking to ramp up inventory. A couple days hold doesn't hurt them. They'll say, consolidate them all. They can change their risk tolerance based upon the season, based upon their business need. We're using data and predictive analytics. This is patent pending with the Patent Office, U.S. Patent Office. Again, based upon millions of customs entries to help a customer understand what the best way to import is.
Perfect. Thank you.
Positive use.
No, that's great. Listen, I mean, I think we learned a couple of things. S&OP, for those that don't know, sales and operations planning is absolutely critical. We used to hear that all the time, hated hearing that, but that is a must. And if you can control that for your customer, you can be a winner in that, right? If you can manage it for your customer and you can manage it internally, then you can really drive that. And AI, everybody has AI. AI is useful and dangerous. And everybody who's been on Instagram or Facebook, AI is dangerous, right? You don't know what you're getting, what kind of information is out there, but it is out there and it's going to be used, and use it to your success. And nobody's behind. Alltech, Valvoline, UPS, they're all just getting their hands on it, right? So there's no one company that's further ahead, in my opinion, other than maybe Google. There may be maybe a step or two ahead than everybody else. So let's talk about sustainability, because that's the next big thing, right? Every company, like supply chain, sustainability was a word that everybody used all the time. Every company talked about sustainability, but they really never did anything monumental about it. I remember Unilever, DuPont, they were like the leaders in that sustainability forecast discussion. But to you guys, sustainability, green logistics for UPS is big. The circular economy for Givaudan and even for Sazerac is important. Trying to reuse the packaging, is big. So what are the most effective strategies do you guys see in your companies that you can adopt to reduce the carbon footprint that you're seeing now? Because that's a big deal. That's a big ask from everybody. And if you're a publicly listed company, it's absolutely a must that you put a sustainability report out there to talk about it, right? So maybe I'll start with you, Steve.
Yeah, it is massive. In any consumer-based business, you're being forced to, from the top down. We have, a whole department strictly focused on sustainability. Supply chain is the first one that they grab by the shirt collar and drag you in. So you're looking at, your different tiers. Your first tier is your manufacturing operations, what you're doing, and the carbon footprint that's putting forward. Tier 2 is basically the materials that you're using within, what you're doing for power, and how that's putting the carbon, expanding the carbon footprint. And then finally, tier 3, which gets into my league, which is the materials, raw materials that I'm buying, and then flowing through to my suppliers as well. So I can tell you, it's really hitting us. This and again, I've been 2+ years in manufacturing, but we're starting to get hit very heavily from the corporate perspective, and especially if you're in a business like ours. So natural ingredients, food ingredients, anything that is nature based. Our tagline, that we have for the company is it's Givaudan, human by nature. So basically, you're just putting the target on your back right there by branding yourself that way. If you're taking yourself to a natural position in the environment with your products, it's only reasonable that your consumers are going to expect a certain level of respect for that coming back. So, it's a big deal. We're touching it every day now, and I think it's going to be the way of the future. And our consumers, the younger generation, are more educated. They're coming in with an expectation of, we want to treat the earth right. We want to treat our environment right. So you're basically playing to them with the pocketbooks as well.
Absolutely. So what are the innovations to Tim, Ryan, and Greg that you guys are doing? What are the things you're doing to help reduce that carbon footprint? If your kids came up to you and says, "Hey, what are you guys doing to help us live longer? So we vacation more."
It's the obvious. What should be the obvious things, the simple things, right? UPS has been dabbling in electric vehicles for decades now, but we're increasing the number of vehicles that we put on road with biofuels and electricity, solar, as well as there's carbon. What's the word I'm looking for? Offsets that you can, we offer to our customers to purchase. So, we're trying to help you be a good sustainable partner as well. Our facilities are using less electricity by turning lights out where we're not using the facilities. I'm sure many of your warehouses are using those things too, but even simpler with that, paperless invoice. 3 pieces of paper are required for your commercial invoice, right? We can send that electronically now. Think about that. Just the number of packages that you may ship in a day that require 3 invoices multiplied by billions of packages around the world. And let's not forget about improving the supply chain. Right? Why bring your products into the U.S. only to return it back to Europe and Asia? Look at a smarter supply chain move and source it direct to your customers. Keep it in Asia. Keep it in Europe, right?
Yeah. Yeah, then from my side, I'll kind of lean, back on my 20-year experience in the forwarding transportation side, and just a huge focus again on visibility to data. So just even giving importers, exporters visibility to the carbon footprint that their company, this shipment, giving them an option of this lane, this carrier, this routing has a carbon footprint of this. And so given the option that, there might be, or you can, a biofuel, a vessel that's utilizing a biofuel and going to have a lower carbon footprint. So really just arming them with that data, but then it's honestly things that are going to help the bottom line and help the environment, from consolidation, finding, are you constantly shipping small shipments from a central location? Do you have the ability to consolidate this, eliminate, maximize the cube of your container, is just get as much space packed into that container. And next thing you know, you're eliminating a full container move out of so it's going to reduce your spend, but also just utilizing that space is going to drive some environmental impact. From Sazerac perspective, I'm not as much on the procurement side, but definitely, you think about the raw materials from the corn, the wheat, the barleys, the sugars that are processed into our products. There is a focus on sustainable practices, finding sources that are, lower impact to the environment. Obviously want to reduce that, but then our customers are looking for a product that they can drink, and then also know that the ingredients in it are pure and sustainably sourced.
Yeah, perfect. Anything else, Tim? No?
Just a note though, these are, and again, it's grabbing us all, but at the same time, you look at your bottom line and your margin when you're applying some of these concepts. And I was sitting with the president of our division for lunch the other day, the ELT meeting, and he came out and he said, "Listen, we got to work towards these things. It's inevitable, but at the same time, I've yet to meet the customer when I hand them that bill for that sustainability delivery that they want to pay it." So
absolutely,
it's a fine line that you walk between delivering a sustainability program and taking the hit on the bottom line that's going to drive the business forward. So
100%.
Yeah, and part of that, if you're not familiar with the term CBAM, if you do business in Europe, you've probably heard CBAM, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. Basically, the European Union is mandating that businesses in the EU provide a statement on a regular basis about the carbon that their business generates and the carbon that goes along with the goods that they acquire, the raw materials. So they're looking for a carbon statement at the business level. It's not going to be an invoice to the customer. It's going to be a mandate that will ultimately get handed down to each company to say, show us what you're doing to make sure that your sustainability efforts are in line with what we need to keep the earth green and also remain profitable, obviously.
Yep. By a show of hands, how many people are actually working on sustainability efforts within your company? Man, that's terrible. You guys don't care about the environment at all. I'll let your kids know. Oh, that's terrible. No, no, listen, to what Steve said and what everybody said, it comes at a cost, right? And in Valvoline's case, is Walmart willing to pay for it? No. You know, they want it. They want reusable packaging, but they're not willing to pay for it, right? And then we have to figure it out. But that's part of a process, right? It's going to get there. But I think anything we can do to help move that pendulum forward is going to be a benefit at whatever cost it comes eventually. But that price eventually gets pushed to the customer, right? The bottom line. So, all right, let's talk about reshoring and nearshoring. Offshoring was a big deal before COVID. I mean, we wanted to push it out everywhere, that Vietnam make it, make China make it, make Mexico make it, make somebody else make it, except for us, right? COVID came and everybody's like, no, we got to bring it back home. We got to make it in-house. We got to do it here. So the question to you guys is, you know, there's trade-offs associated with that, right? For nearshoring and offshoring. So what is the trade-offs between cost savings and risk mitigation when we're talking about deciding to reshore or nearshore? What is that trade-off you're looking at, and how are you managing that within your thoughts? So,
I mean, from my perspective, we've got a pretty good balanced system of plants. We haven't, since I've been there, we have not done that much adjustment in terms of the reshoring, nearshoring. We've got a plant in China that really supports the China
Asia
operation. We've got a plant in Malaysia. Probably the closest we've done is we actually, funny enough, we started bringing Latin America product in last year. We started bringing China product into Latin America to support, and it was basically an operational need out of the U.S. because we were having so much business there. But that, you know, it really wasn't a direct result of the inventories or anything like that.
So it sounds like you sense like Givaudan was already in a good place prior to all of this, and because they had enough market space everywhere that they were able to manage it as is.
Yeah, and we've got the specialized factories that manufacture certain products that are really really strategically located around the world. So
perfect.
That's I do, just from reading and reading supply chain and studying it, I do hear that that is the coming trend. Interestingly enough, Vietnam, I think, is gaining a lot of popularity over China. They're really building their IT infrastructure, which is following with a lot of the businesses that are coming. So it's not as much nearshoring as it is moving away from China specifically.
Perfect.
So nearshoring, reshoring, near distribution, all the buzzwords today, right? 5 years ago, I had a customer come to me and trying to figure out a way to avoid some taxes coming into the United States, right? They manufacture bicycles. So we got to talking about the average value and how many containers they bring in, so on and so forth, what their inventory turns are, and all this complicated stuff, right? And it finally got down to, what's the value of each bicycle? And it was less than $800, the de minimis coming into the United States. So this customer said, what if I just brought all of my bicycles into Mexico, got a warehouse there, and then I just ship them across the border, one by one, right? I said, well, it's going to be a little more expensive than, a ground shipment. But if you take into account, the cost savings, the total cost savings, I think it'll work. So this customer really brought about nearshoring to my attention long before the buzzwords were out there. He still does it to this day. But that's essentially what you are doing with nearshoring. I would tell you, keep your mind wide open when it comes to that discussion. I think your first inclination is, oh my gosh, the warehousing costs are going to go up, and how much am I going to have to pay down there? And am I going to close buildings here and not use them, and so on? So keep your mind open to the entire cost of the supply chain. We're engaged in quite a few conversations with customers right now about nearshoring in Mexico. 3-4 warehouses, I believe, along the border. Not just nearshoring and warehousing, but also near manufacturing. You can change the nomenclature of your product. Be careful there, but you can change the nomenclature of your product if you're assembling it in another country. Different parts. What percentage of the final good is X? et cetera, right? So you can change that tariff code and also avoid some of that Section 301 tariff, right? As well as the financial, there's some financial help that can be offered through the EMEX program in Mexico. I won't get into great detail there, but we really do have we run the whole gamut of the supply chain to really think to help you there: warehousing, manufacturing, finance, right? So again, keep your mind open when it comes to nearshoring. And I would say to the supply chain folks out there, thank you for talking to us about that. For so many years, I'm talking to lower level folks who aren't necessarily open to sharing, if you will. When you share this information with us, when you share your supply chain, your strategies, we really get engaged into a fun conversation again, right? We can figure things out for you.
Yeah, from the Sazerac perspective, it's a nuanced industry, and I'm 4 months in, so I'm still taking it in and learning. But from the nearshoring perspective, there's not a lot that we can change from our supplier base, right? You have tequila's got to be made in Mexico, Scotch has to be made in Scotland, Irish whiskey's made in Ireland. So there really isn't a huge huge opportunity to nearshore. But again, putting the hat back on from the forwarding brokerage side, having gone through the Section 301 tariffs, crazy time as a customs broker. And I remember at the time thinking, wow, we're going to see, just everything nearshored. And it's come, but it didn't come as quick. You understand how it is changing your supply chain. It takes time. I mean, it is a very, it's long analysis and implementation. So, but to Steve's remark earlier, we did see that Vietnam seemed to be the immediate major beneficiary of those, and they just really were able to, have the labor at the low cost, which many companies are looking for, and then also just be able to ramp up and take those volumes on.
Yeah, I've got a customer that, not from a tariff classification perspective, because it doesn't change the tariff what they're doing, but they moved 13 manufacturing facilities from Asia Pacific to Mexico. And they did that primarily because of the capacity issues that came up a couple of years ago. They couldn't get containers, so they were having to air freight. So their costs went through the roof. And when they could get containers, the cost was through the roof. They got to the point where they said, we are spending so much more to get it here. It's slowing our time to market, slowing our time to customers. We're going to start moving manufacturing to Mexico. Again, no tariff impact, no change to the tariff classification, what they paid in duties, but their time to market, their ability to get product to their customer, not be subject to increasing demand for that capacity and decreasing supply. So that was 2.5 years ago, they started this process, and they've got 7 or 8 of those facilities finished. And now we're seeing demand go up again for ocean freight and capacity come back down again, specifically from Asia Pacific. So, they looked at it strictly from a transportation cost perspective, did the analysis and said, still makes more sense to put manufacturing near shore, friendshore.
Yeah, that's perfect, because there's a reason behind that. It's not just because it's hard to get product from Asia. It's, logistics are becoming harder now, right? I mean, the container issues are becoming greater and it's more expensive. And when we have bridges that fall down, which happen more often here, it seems like, in the US than it does anywhere else.
One last thought, if I could, because you mentioned Type 8 entry, Section 321, those low value individual goods coming in, less than $800 US coming into individual consumers. We all see Temu and Shein advertisements popping up on every ad I'm looking at on the internet. Those folks are buying out air freight capacity. They're filling up aircraft, bringing those aircraft into the US. Now they're diverting into Canada, diverting it into Mexico. That's driving up air freight rates as well. So your transportation costs will continue to go up, because, strangely enough, the demand for those low-value consumer goods is just taking up capacity in the air freight marketplace. Side note: if you're a Saturday Night Live watcher and you're in transportation logistics, if you happen to see the skit they put on about a month ago, there was actually a skit talking about forced labor on Saturday Night Live. It was hysterical. And if you're in the industry, please go back, just Google on YouTube, SNL forced labor. It's hysterical.
We're getting there. We're getting there. One more. We'll get there. So what, the one thing we talked about, you did mention that, right? It's funny because we complain about prices. You know, everybody, the elections are coming up, so we're complaining about economics, prices, but yet we go to buy Temu. We go and buy this cheap products that take up, people don't understand the overall logistics of this, right? You buy cheap products, it fill up aircrafts fill up with non-value added goods, I would say, where the value added goods are now more expensive because of that, right? And so part of that is it's a circular issue that we have. We complain about it, yet we go buy something that's low quality, that fill up quality airlines that can't put quality product on it. So we have to look at ourselves, and a lot of people don't understand that as a supply chain, right? Because they just want good, cheap product, right? That's what it amounts to. Last question before we get to the fun part, last mile delivery.
This is all fun, Parashar. I don't know why you're saying till we
Well,
get to
you
the
know,
fun.
I think it's fun for me, but maybe not fun for everybody. I see somebody falling asleep in the back there, and I'm just kidding. No.
That was Omar.
It was Omar. Could have been. Last mile delivery, right? That's a big deal for us, right? I mean, especially for you guys. You know, the biggest challenges that companies face, right, when implementing technologies for last mile delivery. What are you guys seeing as companies are getting, you know, stronger and stronger to try to get that product to the customer quicker, faster, and cheaper, right? What are the issues you guys are seeing for the last mile delivery? I'll start with whomever wants to take the bolt. Take that one for last mile.
Well, let me talk about our partnership with the post office, our SurePost or blended model in the domestic area. It was necessary. Customers demanded a lower shipping rate for these smaller, lower value goods. I'm going to wrap this back up into AI and automation, I believe. So we're delivering we're picking up your packages. We're moving them through our network, and then eventually we're giving them to the post office for that last mile delivery. I was just talking to a friend the other day. Where's my package? Why did you give it to the post office? It took them 2 more days to get it to me. I had to explain to him, well, the mailman had already left. He had to come back and pick up some more packages the next day. Anyways, that part of our business, we are taking back more of that from the post office because of our, I would say, AI automation, data analysis. We're finding that the delivery density in neighborhoods is increasing. It used to be some 20, 30 years ago, you'd be lucky to see a UPS truck in your neighborhood once a week. Now you see it every day. If you're at my house, it's definitely every day. But now with that delivery density, we're in that neighborhood more often. We have more packages to bring to that neighborhood. So we're taking more of those packages back from the post office, delivering more of them final mile by us. So you're not getting them a day or 2 later. I think that's where I see us getting even better. And I think that's only going to improve over time.
Perfect. Now listen, last mile delivery is always big. You know, everybody wants it faster and sooner, but at what cost, right? So always comes down to that. All right. Listen, supply chain can go on forever. We got so many other things we can talk about, but we're getting into a point where we just need to kind of have a little fun. So I got some rapid fire questions I'm going to throw at these guys, and they're going to answer. Listen, it's a short answer, like 4 words or less. If you go to 5, I may have to cut you off, right? So I just want to keep it going quick, right? So we're going to go through the questions, and then you guys answer. Steve, we'll start with you, and we'll just go down the line. And then we'll start with Greg, and we'll come back down, okay? All right, so question number 1. What's your go-to stress reliever after a supply chain crisis?
Bourbon and cigars.
All right. Love that answer. Tim?
I was going to say Buffalo Trace bourbon for Greg.
That's a lie. Is that truth, though?
No, it's not true.
I didn't think so. See? Don't lie. I caught you there. All right. What about you, Ryan?
I've got to call that next level leader and just vent, right? Let it out.
All right.
They kind of stole my thunder here. Yeah, any Sazerac product will do.
Lovely. All right. Second question. What's the most creative excuse you've heard for a supply chain delay? The most creative excuse you've heard? There's got to be one.
Yeah.
Start with you, Greg.
I think we're great.
I'm sorry, this is gonna be a little longer than.
Yeah,
5
sure.
words. So the excuse wasn't that out of the ordinary, but my response to it was. This is when I first started years ago, new to the industry. You know, it's a whole language to learn, right? I was on the phone with a trucker to get a container moved, and she said, had a gruff voice, and she said, "Well, they don't have a chassis," and I said, well, do you need a chassis? Why can you just get it moved without the chassis? And she takes the phone away from her and obviously saying to somebody else, this dumbass on the phone doesn't know you need a set of wheels to move a 40,000 pound metal box. So, that was my education into a chassis. And then
Understand. So it was a creative excuse from your side. I got it. Understand.
Yes.
How about you guys, Ryan, Tim? Creative excuse.
I think early in my career, someone asked me why it was so expensive to get things to Hawaii. And I said, well, we've got to fly it there. Why can't you drive it there? I'll just leave it.
All right. So they need to know geography. Understand.
Mine's slightly long too. I got a phone call on September 14th, 2001, and a gentleman was calling me and he was upset that his package was delivered late. And he said it was a priority overnight package. It was supposed to be delivered the next day. And I said, when did it ship? He said, September 10th. He said, well, you know what happened on September 11th, right? All the aircraft got grounded and they couldn't deliver. So we put it on a truck in Chicago and it still got delivered on the third day. Well, I'm not paying next day delivery charges for that. I'm only going to pay third day for it. I just smiled and said, sir, you pay whatever you feel is right. Couldn't believe that he actually called me on that.
Lovely. Steve, anything from you? No, take it. Okay. All right. So next one, we'll start here. We'll start with you, Steve. If you had a superpower to solve a supply chain issue, what would it be?
Forecasting.
Forecasting. That's a superpower?
See, yeah.
All right, okay.
See the future.
See
what's
the future.
coming.
I like that.
Although then I may not be using it for supply chain. I'd probably be in commodities and rich on an island somewhere.
Understand.
I would know the harmonized tariff classification like the back of my hand.
My goodness. Only he would say that.
That would be a superpower.
Yeah, it would be a superpower.
To know someone in brokerage in every single country.
Wow.
It's kind of what Tim said, right? Anything for you?
No, I just say the ability to, get the antiquated regulations that kind of drag some of us down. The ability to get those pushed through and passed at the, snap of a finger. That'd be
Love that.
mine.
Get rid of the politics. Yeah, that's a superpower. Okay, if supply chain was a movie, what genre would it be? Comedy, horror, drama, or sci-fi? All right, Tim.
Drama.
All right, Steve. Drama? Of course.
I would be a Western, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
I like that.
Definitely drama.
Definitely drama.
Yeah, and an intense drama for sure.
I would say it's a horror, but it's okay. What do I know?
Right.
All right, guilty pleasure during a long supply chain meeting. So you got a long supply chain meeting and you're sitting in Italy. You must have a guilty pleasure. You're doing something. What are you doing?
Wine in the coffee cup.
Wine. Yeah, I love that. Put the wine in the coffee cup. Lovely. Yes, fantastic. Tim?
It's espresso. I don't need to be in Italy to have it. It's espresso.
Espresso during the supply chain meeting. I like that.
Anything to eat for sure.
Anything to eat. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. If it's a Zoom call, I'd probably say like Tetris on my phone or something like that. Yeah, that's it.
See, the first honest man.
Yeah.
First honest man. I love that. Thank you. That's perfect. All right. If supply chain had a motto, what would it be? It's not an easy one, so think about it a little bit. If it had a motto, if somebody knows it, yell it out.
Keep it going.
Yeah.
Keep it going. All right?
Not for the faint of heart.
All right.
Don't quit.
Yeah. Get it done.
How about just do it? I mean, I
Yeah,
think somebody
there you
took that. Nike took that, I think. Yeah, just do it, right? That's what you hear from anybody. If you're a supply chain, your commercial leader comes to you, just do it, right? That's how it gets done. All right. I'll start with this most unusual place you've taken a supply chain meeting. The most unusual place. I think I know some of these.
Yeah. For me, born and raised in Washington, D.C., it would have to be in the AT&T Stadium in Dallas.
Wow. On the call while you're watching a football game, right?
No, it was a meeting in the conference room that Jerry Jones let us use because he was a franchisee.
See, only if you're Givaudan, you can get this.
And it was horrible.
Oh.
I'm a Washington fan. What can I say?
Yeah.
We had a quarterly business review in a bar off of Times Square, New York, called the Longacre Tavern. It's the official U.S. headquarters for Manchester United's fan club, and my old boss knew the owner, so we had the quarterly business review on the second floor at a bar, and Rod Stewart was downstairs watching a soccer match.
Oh, lovely.
I can't match it. Nothing.
Yeah.
It's the diversity of the day. I mean, In the morning, I'm maybe in the transportation manager's office back in the shipping room. In the afternoon, I'm in a boardroom, beautiful oak wood, whatnot. Next visit is somewhere in between. So it's always exciting and different.
Yeah, I'd probably say mine is during my time. I was a account manager for Abercrombie and Fitch, and Expeditors. I was with at the time. We have this uniform, we're suit and tie, and if you know Abercrombie and Fitch, it is completely the opposite. So it was, it's a beautiful campus. It's almost set up like a mountain college town campus, but we were in a room with, I don't even know how they advertised their clothes. It was just naked pictures everywhere, just shirtless people, and that was, us with our suits and ties on, looking like we're part of the FBI, and then the Abercrombie with everybody that they'd have to wear their Abercrombie gear. It was just kind of a surreal meeting.
Lovely. Yeah, that's excellent. The last one, I think we got to make this useful because the Olympics are coming up. If supply chain management was an Olympic sport, what event would it be?
I'm going to go with my favorite one, ice hockey.
Ice hockey. Okay.
You're a goalie. You're just getting
I like that.
crap shot at you the whole time. You ping off a few, you let a few in, and you just keep going.
I love that. Tim.
Decathlon, because you've got to be really, really good at a bunch of different things. It's not just the transportation, it's the compliance, it's the brokerage. There's so many different components, and you've got to be really, really good at every one of those.
Steeplechase. If you're not familiar with it, it's a track event. So you're running, you're sprinting, and then you're slowing down to jump a hurdle. The next hurdle that you're jumping over water or running through water. So definitely the ebbs and flows of supply chain.
Yep, makes a lot of sense.
I'd say, I don't know what the name of it is. It's in where they, on the ice, they throw that thing down, and then everybody's
Curling.
there, like,
Curling.
just like using the broom and going crazy, and everybody's following it, and then it just shows up where it's supposed to, and then it's like anticlimactic, and it's like, okay.
Lovely. Well said. Well said. Well, this is perfect, guys. Thank you so much. Listen, I know it's a little past 7:15 now, and supply chain can be talked about forever. We know that. There's so much to talk about, but I want to thank Steve, Tim, Ryan, and Greg for taking the time out and making this fun. And I hope you guys learned something today from it. Thank you so much.
And on behalf of the World Trade Center, thank you guys.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you did close it up.
All right. That was a good program. We really enjoyed ourselves. Thank you again for the panelists. Thank you, Prasher, for moderating. We're very excited about this. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. Some of you, part of the reason for the Global Executive Forum is networking. And before we totally close here, I'm going to call on one person in each table. They need to introduce themselves and then introduce one other person in their table. And are you ready for that? Just a quick introduction. Introduce yourself and then one other person in your table. So that way we get to know each other a little bit more and we feel excited about that. Okay? Tyler, I'll start with you.
I'm Tyler Allen. I'm in the 30 years associate bureaus and famous people in sustainability social company called USA Image. Keely, this is Keely, who is recently reselling back in the States from Japan in the educational administration in Las Vegas.
Thank you. Give them a round of applause. Mary, I'll go with you.
Several years ago. Sorry, my voice does not always carry across a large room. So when he was doing tours at UPS Worldport.
Amir.
I'm just the executive director of graduate program is developing university and the studies media and then
Over to Bob.
And for many years, and really appreciate what the World Trade Center does for what's that. The innovation you done Hollywood, you say all of technology, all of this is so good. That's really good.
All right, Ashley, over to you.
I'm Ashley Brower, founder and chief strategist for Max Strategic Communications. And here is Vernon Foster, who is on the World Trade Center Kentucky board and the vice dean and king of the graduate programs at U of L College of Business.
But, we've been pretty blessed to be acknowledge everybody at that table, right? Kevin's a bank, they need to understand they're all special and they're all shit.
And Kevin,
That's right.
Kevin is our Rotary Club of Louisville president for 3 more days.
All right. Alan.
Alan Black, Global Trade and Product Regulatory Leader for Valvoline. And I'll introduce Nick Donovan. He's our Director of Supply Chain for LATAM.
Thank you.
I'm stuck. Anthony Gann, I'm our Alltech Global Director of Operations, and I'd like to introduce you to Mark Stith. He's our International Logistics Manager.
Very nice. Thank you. And last but not least, Miguel.
Good evening. Miguel Zamora. I'm the Vice President of the Louisville River Port Authority. We are the grantee for Foreign Trade Zone 29 here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Also serve on the Governor's Water Transportation Advisory Board. And I got to meet Khalil here, sitting to my left, and we were chatting, but I didn't get to learn a lot about him before everything got started. So I'll leave it at that, but hopefully get to learn a little bit more about him. And super grateful to be here today.
Well, make sure you stick around, get to know each other, exchange some business cards. I don't believe in business cards anymore. I'm a LinkedIn guy, so some of you probably believe that way too. Finally, I'd like to thank Jim Ray, who does a lot of our marketing activities. Predominantly, our relationship with Jim is he produces our podcast, this Global Trade Adventure. How many episodes have we done? 13? All right. So if any of you are interested in being part of the podcast, please come and talk to me. It really is very professionally done. So there's a lot of great things that are happening at the World Trade Center. And the bottom line, we grow trade. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.